The Carolina Hurricanes finished second in the Metro in 24-25, 99 points, 7 straight playoff appearance. They defeated the Devils in 5 games, the Caps in 5 games that we just mentioned, and then lost to Florida in the Eastern Conference Final in 5 games as well. They've had 3 conference final appearances in the last 7 seasons. But Neil, this is a club that I look at and it's a good team. They're going to be in the playoffs every year, but there is an absolute ceiling in terms of how far this club typically can advance.
It sure seems that way, Vic. And we say it every year, and you've been right on every year about this team and their goaltending, not good enough to get them very far in the playoffs. I think they're built as a really good regular season team. I think if you're a Hurricane season ticket holder, you're in for a great 41 home games and great watching them on TV during the regular season. But I don't think they're a team that's built for the playoffs. They're just not. You look at their front line this year, it's going to be great. Nikolaj Ehlers, along with Sebastian Aho and Andrei Svechnikov. That's pretty good players in their second line with Jarvis and Jackson Blake and maybe Taylor Hall, who knows? And then you have a checking line of Martinook, Stahl, and Stankoven. That's real good. So they're solid. They're deep. Their defense. Now on defense, K'Andre Miller comes in. Let's talk about that for a minute. They paid a big price and a big salary to bring in K'Andre Miller. I don't think you and I think as much of K'Andre Miller as that trade and that signing would be.
No. And so let's hit the additions for the Hurricanes, because as you mentioned, K'Andre Miller comes in a trade with the New York Rangers in exchange for defenseman Scott Morrow, who saw a little bit of action during the playoffs last year. The Hurricanes also surrendered their first 2 picks in 2026. And then Miller signs for 8 years, $7.5 million AAV. And then perhaps even the bigger story was Nikolaj Ehlers coming in as a UFA from Winnipeg, 6 years, $8.5 million per. And I think, Neil, this was a move that the Hurricanes had to make. They had to show that they could land a big fish in that Carolina market. But I think one of the things that you shared with me, as soon as the signing was made, it's great for Carolina, but he's just another player in line of already what they have. And Ehlers scored 20 plus goals in 8 of his 10 years as a Winnipeg Jet. He's never reached 30.
No, but he's going to have an opportunity to do that this year playing with these guys, because if he's ever going to do it, it's going to be here. And I think that you're right. The thing about Ehlers is he's a carbon copy of what they've already got. He's a good player. He scores. He's good offensively. He's not a heavyweight. He's not a power forward. He's just more offense. And like I said before, I think during the regular season, they're going to be awesome. I would say it's a good chance they're going to win the Metro Division. That's how good they are. And with the Caps taking a step back, as I just said. So, and we're going to have to see the development of K'Andre Miller. Is he going to develop? Is he going to get better than he was with the Rangers? Because certainly with the Rangers, he took a step backwards last year. I think everybody expected a lot more out of him in New York in 24-25 than they saw.
Couple of other ads that I want to get to because this is going to fit in with the rest of the discussion. Mike Riley comes in from the New York Islanders as an unrestricted free agent, and goalie Caden Primeau comes in a trade with the Montreal Canadiens. You're going to get into a little bit of a side story after that. A lot of RFA, UFA re-signs. Taylor Hall, Frederick Andersen, Eric Robinson are the notable re-signs as UFAs for the Hurricanes. The restricted free agents that are re-signed, Logan Stankoven, as Neil had mentioned his name before, 8 years, $6 million on average. Ryan Suzuki, the brother of Canadiens captain Nick Suzuki, and Skyler Brind'Amour, center and the son of head coach Rod Brind'Amour. So a little bit of an interesting thing here in that Caden Primeau and Skyler Brind'Amour are going to be playing together.
And both of them have fathers that played for the Hurricanes. And this is amazing. Their fathers were traded for each other. And that put Rod Brind'Amour into the Carolina Hurricanes to be the captain who held the Stanley Cup over his head when they won it in 2006. And of course, that sent Caden Primeau's father, Keith Primeau, to the Philadelphia Flyers. And so for those two guys to play, it's a second generation of Hurricanes for sure. I'm sure there's a lot of pressure on Skyler Brind'Amour, though, when your dad is behind the bench. That must be something very unique. It's so that we'll see how that all turns out. Caden Primeau had some real good nights with the Montreal Canadiens. So let's see if he develops, but they'll be depending on that for their future.
The Keith Primeau-Rod Brind'Amour trade took place in 2000. And of course, Keith Primeau, not to digress here, but he had some heroics scoring in that 5 overtime game for the Flyers against the Pittsburgh Penguins in the playoffs of that year. Let's talk about the drops here because this is significant. In addition to Morrow going to New York in the K'Andre Miller deal, Brent Burns signs as a UFA with the Colorado Avalanche, and perhaps even more significant, Dmitry Orlov signs as a UFA with the San Jose Sharks. So when you look at the collective here, they lose Burns, Orlov, and a prospect in Morrow, and they gain K'Andre Miller and Mike Riley. So where I'm sitting here, their offense is definitely better with the addition of Ehlers. The defense is worse, and the goaltending has not been truly addressed. It looks like it's going to be Freddie Andersen, Pyotr Kochetkov, and then we'll see what Caden Primeau can bring. But this is still not elite goaltending, in my opinion, to get the Hurricanes anywhere beyond where they have topped out in recent seasons.
Agreed. In the playoffs. So let's take a look at the defense. Here's one of my worries for the Carolina Hurricanes on this, and I want to see how this turns out. Brent Burns has been there for quite a while, is a great example to young players for the Hurricanes. Is first at the rink, last to leave, workout ethic like nobody's business. They weren't going to re-sign him. He signs a 1-year deal in Colorado. Now, we all know why, because of his age. But when you lose a leadership person like that, let's see how that affects their locker room. You're right about Orlov as a defenseman. He wanted a long deal. He couldn't get it in Carolina. He got it in San Jose. Morrow goes to the Rangers in the K'Andre Miller deal. If you remember, Morrow and Nikishin both had little cameos in the playoffs. Obviously, they felt that Alexander Nikishin was the guy they wanted to hold on to.
Yeah.
And they let Morrow go to the Rangers in the Miller trade. So their defense looks like this. K'Andre Miller, Jacob Slavin, you got to think is their number one guy now. Alexander Nikishin is their young guy, up and coming, big question mark. Jalen Chatfield has proven himself to be a good top 4 defenseman. You've got Shane Gostisbehere, who's a great power play defenseman for the point, and then Walker, who is also a very good top 6 defenseman. Mike Riley slips in, I guess, as their number 7, as he was in and out with the Islanders after being claimed on waivers from Florida. Their defense is going to be a question mark until it's not a question mark. Because with Brent Burns and Orlov gone, I want to see how that affects this team. And like you said, with the goaltending being suspect as it has been for the last couple of years, their defense has got to be good to cover up if, in fact, on nights when something goes in that shouldn't go in.
I'm going to be interested to see how Mike Riley does because he had the heart ailment. He had another issue health-wise last season. I think this is a good under-the-radar pickup by the Hurricanes and general manager Eric Tulsky. And before I let the Hurricanes go, we're talking about their offense, and I certainly don't want the Canes fans angry at us because Seth Jarvis continues to be an outstanding center for the team. 32 goals, 35 assists, and 67 points. But again, Neil, right or wrong, this team is better, or are they just the same as they were a year ago?
No, I think they're better offensively, Vic. I think that we haven't talked a lot about Jackson Blake. They gave him a big, long contract. They really believe in him. He certainly showed signs last year. So when you talk about Ehlers, Aho, Svechnikov, Jarvis, Blake, and then you've got the guys that can chip in on the third and fourth line, like Martinook and Stahl and Stankoven. They got a great group of forwards. They really do. I don't question their forwards at all. And if anything's going to carry them to the Metro Division crown, it's going to be those forwards. They're question marks. And guys, everybody has question marks. Everybody.
Yep.
Let's not get that. Let's make that straight. Their question mark is still in goal. And now they've got question marks on defense because they made changes. They made changes to Brent Burns is gone. Andre Miller is in. Morrow is gone as a seventh. Nikishin was kept. And Orlov has gone to San Jose because he couldn't get a long enough contract with Carolina. And he was also a great guy on the point. They must feel they're okay with Shane Gostisbehere, who is a good point man on the power play. So in my mind, that's their question marks. I anticipate they'll be in the running for first place in that division.
Yeah, but what about after that?
I can't predict. I don't think they're built like a playoff team.
That's the question then. They're built like a playoff team, but they're not built to be a Stanley Cup team. It's just
no, exactly. Yes, they don't play playoff hockey all year long like the Florida Panthers do. They play regular season hockey, and they're very good at it. But when the playoffs come and they get against an opponent who plays playoff hockey, they don't have the ability to switch to playoff hockey.
Work still to be done there, I believe, before we get to the trade deadline sometime next March.